We are going to end up absolutely siding with Tom way more than Adam, I can see already. What is Adam even arguing here? Thank you for your wisdom, Adam. I'm so glad you run a popular politics show. Common situation whenever someone brings up a bad point about Trump, I fear, with Adam. You can't be authoritarian if you're right, is Adam's argument right now. So this is the meltdown, all right? Dude, Adam is totally cooked here. But now he's muted Tom. So Sitch is having to step up. Sitch is he's taking off the belt right now, okay? He's done with Sitch and he quits his own show. Okay, so TomFoolery went on Adam and Sitch tonight, all right? He went on to debate them. I think it's about whether Trump's a fascist or something. Yeah, TomFoolery argues that whether Trump is a fascist. And apparently Adam had a proper temper tantrum, a proper meltdown. Got very sad, very in his emotions on his own show. Getting very sad on his own show because Sitch was not being nice enough to him, was not backing him up enough. And as we know, Adam simply cannot function without Sitch. And it's all because of TomFoolery. So props to TomFoolery this time. Maybe he'll say some stuff that I'll disagree with. I don't know. I'll say if he does. But, you know, the base level credits TomFoolery here, making Adam cry on his own show. We love that. We do love that. Let's see, though. Adam, this is a trend for Adam. So let's just take a look at some interactions he had with Chud, or an interaction he had with Chud, and then how he spoke about it afterwards. This is one of my favorites with Adam.
That's why I asked.
I'm sorry, Adam, I've got something really important to say to you. This from a super chat. It says, Adam, please, from everyone watching, stop talking for 5 minutes.
My God.
Adam.
Okay, all right, I'm going to take off. Thanks, guys.
No.
So Chud reads out a super chat telling him to shut up. And he says he's leaving the show. He is disconnecting from the show, leaving the call. He's done.
Oh.
No.
Well, you did, Chud. You big mean bully.
I was just reading the super chat.
It's cool. It's cool, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's not a big deal. I'm tired anyway, so.
And now Chud has to live with the guilt and shame.
I wanted you here, Adam.
Well, I want you to stay, Adam. We invited you, not accidentally.
Hey, well, I mean, I'm just trying to make a point here. I mean, if it's too
I would tell you to stop talking if you wanted.
That was one random person.
I think it's fair to raise the point.
Totally mind out of being on the show by a $5 donation. A $5 donation has driven this guy off the panel.
I mean, if it's too
I would tell you to stop talking if you wanted.
That was one random person.
I think it's fair to raise the point.
And say a piece.
I think it's fair to raise the point. I couldn't give you an answer as to where exactly the line would be. That's all I'm saying.
All right, cool.
Wait, so you're saying you're gonna?
No, I think I am gonna take off.
Oh,
thanks for having me on, guys.
Love you, Adam. We'll catch you around.
No hard feelings. I don't want you to think there's any hard.
And guys, this is if you think this is prophetic, okay? This is like basically exactly how we're gonna see him act in this next video when we watch the Tom stuff.
No hard feelings. I don't want you to think there's any hard feelings here, but I'm tired.
Okay, listen.
Anyway.
It genuinely isn't because of the super chat, is it? I was fucking around, okay?
Well, I mean, it is a little bit because of the super chat. But
wow! Oh my God! No, you can't listen to. You run a comedy show of your own. You can't listen to random super chatters.
Look, we have our super chatters too, but it's just
they're just not as rude, huh?
Yeah, but chuds are dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
Ours are big, smart. Many brain, much neuron. Zap! Wow.
Oh, I see it.
And he's gone.
Hi, Adam.
You happy with yourself?
So the next day, Adam talks about this on his show. So let's watch all these clips.
Talk about the drama from EFAP. He mentioned a debate and questioned whether you were actually mad.
Let's run that back.
There you go.
Help him pay my mortgage.
Hidden Squid for $5 says, Adam, I did your bidding yesterday and got Chud to talk about the drama from EFAP. He mentioned a debate and questioned whether you were actually mad.
Nice.
So yeah, and then wait.
Much cooler than Chud. Look, we had a super chat here that made a lot of sense. Well, I hope you guys understand. I'm just having fun with Chud. Okay, I'm not really one for starting drama with other creators. I try to stay out of drama. So
Are you saying this is all just a troll? It's all a meme.
A little bit. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, my feelings were hurt.
So like, look, he can't decide. So you're saying this is all just a troll? You're just joking? But he's like, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously my feelings were hurt. But how much is it really a joke then?
You know, I'm A team. I wear my feelings on my sleeve. It's hard for me to deny. I don't like to lie. And I mean, I said my piece about this, so but I am obviously having some fun.
Right.
I do think it backfired on Chud, and I think Chud came off looking like a real a-hole. And I figured, look, I can do some guilt tripping here for a couple days.
Wow, look at you milking it.
Yeah. Well, it's just it's fun for it's fun for the
Chud did not look like an asshole. He looked funny, and this guy looked like a total pussy.
The audience. A lot of people were saying when we first came in, like, I'm here for the Chud drama.
The drama.
Look, where's that
chat?
super
Don't
chat?
tell anyone. Don't tell anyone that M's just milking it for the drama. Okay.
Where's that?
Is serious drama business.
Look.
So like again, I believe they were telling people, they were like saying that you should act like Adam's super mad, which is like fine, like that can be the bit, but you were also upset by it. He was also actually upset by it. Like we just heard that in the last clip, and he just admits it again there. Like that did actually hurt my feelings. Like, so you're not really trolling, are you?
Adam off EFAP yesterday. Adam laughing emoji.
Chud's chat. Yeah, I know.
There you go. Wow. Damn. Oh, it wasn't even EFAP $5. It was Chud's $5.
That I got to admit.
Oh yeah, this is the really good clip. Okay.
And EFAP $5. It was Chud's $5.
That I got to admit.
Yeah.
That irked me a little bit too.
Wow, look at this guy.
Look, I just like, I don't know. It feels very leftist to me to go on.
He's like a socialist, isn't he?
Chud is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, makes sense now. It totally makes sense.
He's like a class reductionist socialist, I thought.
Look, I always see the leftist mafia, right? Streaming on like 13 different channels at once. And I'm going, what the fuck?
There's nothing wrong with that. What do you mean?
Yeah, there is. How do you build a show like that?
Oh, no.
I think when they say he's a class reductionist socialist, they just mean he's like a Marxist type that doesn't do the caring about black people stuff.
Splitting up the audience between every single member of the audience?
For them, it's stupid because it's a regular show. They should just split the revenue of the show between all the people.
Right.
Obviously. But if we're just on Mahler's show, I don't think it's a problem with someone streaming on their end.
Well, we didn't stream.
We did.
So yeah, like he's now crying about Chud streaming EFAP over EFAP.
Streaming on their end.
Well, we didn't stream.
We didn't, no.
And I wouldn't stream. I would think it's, look, I wouldn't.
Yes, I do remember when Chud would talk about fucking capitalist realism every stream. Yes.
I know what you're saying.
Take away from Look.
That's a good point.
What the fuck? We're stealing away 1,000 viewers from fucking Mahler?
Right, yeah.
Why?
Like if Mahler was on our show, he's still streaming his. I agree.
Mahler also invited us on his show, so we would bring our fans.
I know.
To his, like, come on.
Well, to be fair to Chud, I don't know if he would have been streaming normally, regularly here anyway. So that does change things a little bit.
What do you mean?
Like if this was his regular time to be streaming anyway?
Yeah. Well, then you just say, look, I can't go on the show.
Okay. Or you just go and you turn it off. I don't know. It depends on the situation. Anyway.
Whatever. I mean, we're going to be in that. I guess we're in that situation with Cherry, but I mean, I told her we're going to be streaming anyway ahead of time.
That's our regular streaming time, right?
Yeah. So I said, if you want to set something up while we're regularly streaming, we'll join. So I mean, I was told ahead of time.
So yeah, I know you get the idea here. So we're gonna see some more of that in this debate. So let's take a look. I won't spoil it for you. Actually,
it's quiet as hell, and there's just not like a good way to turn it up.
Definition where this is going to line up with what Trump does.
I would say it's a
Most
nationalistic,
stabilized, I think,
autocratic movement led by like a single strongman, like machismo sort of person who is has a populist movement and like a needs
Well, can
conformity
you
under
can you
one
be
single leader.
nationalistic? Can you be nationalistic without being a fascist? Like, if
Yeah, of course.
okay, so maybe that's not the. I guess you would say that that needs to be added.
Do we have a confirmed height on Tom? I've seen sources saying 5'8". I've seen sources saying 5'8".
Added in. I just like, how is nationalistic an indicator of someone is a fascist if
it's been reported?
So
if you can be nationalistic and not be a fascist.
The idea of fascism is something that like obviously Mussolini came up with, but it's been kind of like conceptualized over time based on all the different leaders who were fascists. And so
Streets are saying 5'8".
of the patterns with each one of these people, they kind of like consists of a group of characteristics now that we would use to say one is a fascist.
Well, let's stick to the, like, what are the bad characteristics of fascists? Because I don't necessarily think nationalism is a bad characteristic. Like, I think we should have some level of nationalism. So
that's tall.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think generally people would say ultra-nationalism. I don't think nationalism is bad in and of itself, but when it's used in certain
Do you not
ways,
let women gaslight you?
Like in a populist movement, when you're constantly having to, and in a fascist movement where you're having to constantly have like some sort of bad guy to rail against, and you're already a nationalist movement, it can be detrimental, especially to the type of government that we have, where we're like the only world power. We're kind of working with everybody else to make sure that we stay the world power. But then when you have like a person who wants to like cut themselves off from the rest of the world and not really help other countries, not really engage with other countries, kind of cut off you know, different types of
so now isolationism is fascism?
No, again, you're taking like one thing by itself and saying that thing is fascism, or the whole thing is bad. Like it's not. That's not. It's kind of a combination of all of the things together that cause the overall problem.
Yeah, this is already like fucking pulling teeth. I can tell. Tom trying to talk to Adam about this. We are going to end up absolutely siding with Tom way more than Adam. I can see already. I thought maybe I had like a precursory sort of like gut feeling that Tom was going to come off super retarded in this. But no, Adam is actually just so dense. No one can look stupid talking to him. Like, yeah, obviously, like one individual policy or one individual principle isn't going to define an ideology. You're going to need like a collection of them, right? There's going to be plenty that overlap with others, but just because they have one thing in common, they aren't the exact same thing. They have different names and descriptions. It's just such a retarded point to go, oh, so isolationism is fascism? No, dude, that's not what anyone's fucking saying, retard.
And why?
What's the difference between Tom and Adam? Tom still watches Destiny, sure. I was going to say Adam's successful, but yeah, sure. Two differences then.
I'm asking though, because like if you take like 5 good things and you say we add all these 5 good things together and automatically we get this horrible thing, I'm thinking, well, why? Like, why are you throwing good things in there like nationalism? I guess you're saying like once nationalism reaches a too extreme level, then it becomes bad. Which I mean, I'm open to that argument, but what would be the level?
Well, I think one of the problems that I have when talking to a lot of people about whether or not Trump is a fascist or whether.
Okay, Adam needs to decide whether he's asking Tom to explain what fascism is and how it applies to Trump, or whether he's asking Tom to explain why fascism's bad. Okay? He needs to pick one of these two conversations and stick to that conversation. The idea that if he keeps flicking between the two, this is going to be absolutely fucking painful.
Whether or not his movement is fascist is they deny whether or not it's fascist based on whether or not they think it's bad. When like fascism doesn't mean bad, like it has like an actual meaning to it, as an actual definition. And if you think that definition is bad, then like that's okay, good. But it doesn't mean bad. It has a stigma to it. But like you can think fascism is good. Like there's lots of people who do.
Mm-hmm. Well, is it something like, I guess the way that I would conceptualize it is fascism is an authoritarian movement. So like the basis, it has to be authoritarian. It has to be built around the idea that an individual person or citizen of a country is like everything in the country has to be for the sake of the country, has to be the sake of the collective. So you have authoritarian, everything's for the sake of the country, and then it's like that has a nationalistic flavor on top of that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I would agree
Okay.
with pretty much all.
Imagine looking bad next to Tom. Just saying. If Sitch didn't sound so femboy, I'd feel bad for him.
Thank you for the $4.20, Fendorn1. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess kind of like to address what you were saying, Adam, it's kind of like you could say like being religious is a good thing, but then you could, living in a religious theocracy is a bad thing, because it's like you take something like religion, like you take nationalism, but then you overlay it onto a authoritarian government structure. So it's
Vanessa is this week's token black lady running defense for Trump. Okay.
kind of, I guess the base is authoritarian government, and then the flavor is like, is it gonna
Oh man, it actually reminds me. I have a just brief tangent. I have a perfectly tuned algorithm. Anyway, let's go back to
be
this.
religious? Is it going to be nationalistic? Is it going to be communist? Like how exactly
give it
the
$2.
authoritarian flavor is what kind of differentiates, fascism from other things.
Then why aren't we just focused on the authoritarian aspect? Because obviously nationalism plus authoritarianism is bad. Religion plus
Well, I'll link to that.
authoritarianism is bad.
Right.
Like
right.
as soon as you start stacking them up, you're like, well, it's really the authoritarianism that's bad.
Well, again, it's going to be even worse in our country because we are a liberal country. So, like, if we have people who are starting to create divides based on like racial lines or nationalistic lines, whether or not you immigrated, whether or not you're Muslim, like in our country, that is like a very big melting pot of different ethnicities and races. That would be pretty controversial and problematic to our democracy, right?
Two things. I mean, you can be black and nationalist. You can be an immigrant and still be a nationalist towards America. A lot of times the immigrants are the most nationalistic. Like they join the military, they've come here, they've chosen to be American. So you can still be nationalistic and be from elsewhere in the world. My problem, like obviously, if you're devising a definition and you're using this nationalist label, you're going to get a fair amount of false positives because other people are nationalistic. You're saying, oh, look, there's the nationalist pattern. I see it. This person is a fascist.
Yeah, it's dang. I think it's a lot more complicated than that because, yeah, again, like it's not Black people can be nationalists, but if do you guys remember Professor Flowers?
Yes.
Okay, so
who was,
like,
I think, a black nationalist.
Yeah, so
throwback.
She said she
Professor
wasn't,
Flowers.
but she had very like black nationalistic.
Okay, if there's anyone that hasn't seen a bunch of years of Twitch poll content, Professor Flowers was a black woman who had a debate with Vosh, where Vosh repeatedly pressed her on whether it was okay for people in colonial nations to genocide their white occupiers, post-colonial nations or whatever, to genocide their white occupiers. And she kept saying, I think indigenous peoples should have a right to self-determination. And she kept saying that again and again, every time Vosh asked her, are you okay with white people being genocided by indigenous people? I think indigenous people have a right to self-determination, again and again. So that's the context here, all right?
Rhetoric, and then she would say things that were very like apologetic towards things that the rest of us would consider like almost like genocidal and like a really bad thing, but she was perfectly in favor of it. The fact that she was black while saying it didn't like make it any different to me. It was just like that sort of rhetoric and that sort of idealism is going to be a problem with our country again, like especially because we are like a melting pot.
The example is not really apt to what I'm saying though, because I'm talking about maybe an African American citizen who joins the military, is super gun-ho, loves America, Team America, where the black nationalism of Professor Flowers, I think, was isolationist. She was conceptualizing the black community as its own nation within America, and that nation would be somewhat separatist towards the American national people, the American.
Yeah, but that is like creating the divisions as though like you are a completely different people from everybody else that you're living with it can be problematic in a number of ways, but it's going to be more so as a movement, of course, but even more so when you are like a leader of a country, when you're a leader of a nation, and you're supposed to be a leader of all of those people. Having any sort of divisions based on those lines is going to be even worse, right?
Would you consider yourself a nationalist?
No, I don't think that.
Are you American?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say that obviously I have nationalistic tendencies. I believe in like, government. I believe in military. I believe in, taking care of Americans first. Like I believe in a lot of different things that might be considered nationalistic to an extent, but we start calling it nationalism normally once you're willing to like help that group of people to the detriment of another people. So even if it's like really hurting other people outside.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's normally.
So that's okay. So that's interesting. So you're saying nationalism, it's not nationalism until you are in favor of your group to the detriment of other groups. So look, if the hypothetical African American that joins, let's say, the Air Force and becomes a pilot, and that person is not nationalistic. That person is not nationalistic because nothing they're doing is to the detriment of another society.
It's about the belief that you're willing to help your nation, even if it's to the detriment of another nation. So like when we're
what if that other nation is actively trying to do things to the detriment of you? It's a self-defense.
It's like I feel like Tom's definition of nationalism here is like really broad and lame. Like a retard like Adam can just pick at this like infinitely. I feel like nationalism has to be like, it's not just like, obviously everyone wants their nation to succeed and is fine with some detriment to other nations if that's necessary for their nation to succeed. Pretty much everyone's fine with that. It's not really what nationalism is. Nationalism is like the idea that your country, your nation, your power structure is ascended above all others. It's like almost an exceptionalism belief that you should be able to do whatever you want and not have to be concerned in any way about the interests of others. It is like it is more specific than just being like, oh yeah, I want my nation to succeed and I'm not going to put a bunch of thought into other nations. It is specifically about the exclusion, like supremacy almost. Like that's what it's about. Situation.
Yeah, which is why I say that I believe in military. But if we're talking about like whether or not refugees should be able to come into the country or whether or not we should accept asylum seekers, these are things that we would consider to be nationalistic because at this point we're even like doing it to the detriment of other people because they're not part of our nation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So when you say at the detriment, let's just for the sake of the conversation, we'll say like there's positive nationalism and then there's negative nationalism. And negative nationalism is this concept of supporting your nation's interests at the detriment of other nations or other people from other nations. Is in your kind of way of you're conceptualizing this, is this only in ways that are unjustified when you say like the detriment of other nations?
Well, with like a liberal sort of ideology, you would just generally believe that it's going to be unjustified. Like without the to the detriment of others, it's kind of just patriotism at that point. Right. And so, yeah, like if without the part where it's like to the detriment. So if you ever, I talk to Groypers a lot, and a lot of times they'll say like, Tom, you say that you're in favor of Americans first, but you're not really. And I'll say like, why not? And then they'll say like, because you're willing to give money to Israel or Ukraine. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean that I don't want to take care of Americans first. It just means that there's also a second, a third, and a fourth after us. And there's other people that come after. But for them, there is nobody that comes after. That would be nationalism.
Could we draw the line at imperialism? Where, like, obviously, we don't like what's going on with Russia invading Ukraine because it's imperialistic.
Well, I mean, if you ever heard Candace Owens talk about this, she'll tell you that imperialists aren't real nationalists because if they were real nationalists, they never would have gone outside of their country in the first place.
Well, look, I'm asking you. You're the one drawing the line at a detriment to others. Obviously, I would classify imperialism as a detriment to others.
I would say that yes, imperialism is to the detriment of others. I'm when you're saying draw the line there, I don't know if you're saying that they would have to be imperialist in order to be a nationalist. I'm kind of just using like the general like Google.
Well, I'm using your definition of doing harm. I'm using your definition of doing harm to others because obviously imperialism would do harm to others. I think that's the Ukraine conflict is a perfect example. Russia wants to take all of Ukraine's land and make their people Russian. That's imperialism.
Yeah,
101,
so I
right?
would say that part is definitely nationalistic. Where they
but if asylum seekers
so much better that they.
But if asylum seekers come to the border and we turn them away, that's not imperialist.
Yeah, right. YouTube actually loves pro-Israel content. I found out. However, I should just set my title as Tomfoolery because people love content. People love me covering the Tom tent.
Correct. That would not be imperialist.
Right. So that's why I'm making the distinction. So you would say by your definition, you would say turning people away at the border is nationalistic and at the detriment to others. So
yeah,
I'm just trying to define the levels here. So I would not define turning away asylum seekers as nationalism.
I mean, I don't think it is in and of itself. I think it's a nationalistic idea, just as as I said, like having a military is like a nationalistic idea, because obviously like anytime we use our military, it's generally going, unless we're using it on our own citizens, it's going to be to the detriment of another nation, right?
Well, no, it could be fully self-defense, obviously.
Right, but it's still to the detriment of another. It's just that, yes, I believe that's like...
It would not be in the detriment to another if it was self-defense. Unless you're saying self-defense is not acceptable.
Well, detriment doesn't mean that it's...
What is Adam even arguing here? Obviously, self-defense can be at someone else's detriment. If someone attacks you, and then you shoot them in the head, that might be self-defense, but they still got fucking shot in the head. That's obviously a detriment to them. Like,
what detriment has nothing to do with whether or not it's acceptable, right? Like when Kyle Rittenhouse shoots somebody in the head, it's still to the detriment of their head.
Okay, Tom, let you guys with the... Okay, I can't even shit talk Tom's analogies now. Okay, just use the exact analogy that I was just using. Obviously, yep.
Of whether or not he was justified in doing it, right?
Yeah, justified.
I mean, I would include justification as part of the equation, but anyway. So let's
I did not
we got
pre-watch
nationalist and
I skimmed for Adam's meltdown, and that was it. I just knew about the meltdown.
And authoritarian. What else was there for fascist?
It's not a good day when you see Tom running circles around anyone with without a mental disability. It's so fucking true.
It's like a autocracy under a single leader. Like where Sitch was saying earlier, it would have to include like some sort of
he's never chatted here. There's no way.
Authoritarianism that would generally come under an autocracy as well. But yeah, like a single dictator that has a populist type movement that is nationalistic is generally the way that people look at fascism, or the way that they define it.
Right.
And then it comes with a bunch of like common characteristics, right? Like military supremacy, always being the victim. Like Mussolini's idea had this like great myth that you had to use in order to bring people together, because the idea of fascism was supposed to be in contrast to liberalism, and the fact that like they felt like liberalism allowing people to vote and everything doesn't account for the fact that humans are just very emotional and they aren't very logical. And so allowing everybody to vote can never really work. And so instead, you take advantage of their emotional tendencies and try to get them to buy into a single leader. And then that leader should just be a good leader on behalf of all of them.
Well, I mean, there's obviously some overlap with the democratic system, right? Obviously, in a democracy, you're trying to get voters to support you so that you can gain public office. So, but that you wouldn't call that fascism, right?
Right. Well, yeah, of course not. Again, I mean, taking one like aspect or one tendency and then calling that thing in and of itself fascism just doesn't really it doesn't really work the same, because yeah, it's going to be the entirety of it. As
well, look, I as someone who is continually pro democracy, Like I'm very enthusiastic about democracy. Often to
would you consider increasing this to 1.25x? I've run out of my prescription amphetamines and this is causing me pain. I avoid these guys and need the Kuihman React condom protection from the mental aids.
Yeah, I will speed it up. You're right. It's been a while since I covered Tom. I forgot that 1.25 is like minimum.
In against our chat because they would like to limit people's ability to vote sometimes, and I'm more about expanding the vote than anything. This is what I'm saying about you're taking a bunch of things that I would categorize as good things, like popular support, people voting. That I would say that's a good thing, and you're saying. And you're saying, look, that's a bad thing. Popular support is part of being a fascist. Nationalism is being a part of being a fascist. It's
no. I said populist, not popular support.
Well, what is the difference between a populist and popular support?
So a populism is also a type of movement that's also going to be based on like the people against the elites or the establishment. It's also based on like you're being oppressed. The country isn't where it should be. You have to have like, yes, a bunch of different types of like victimhoods and victim mentalities that you have to be fighting. And you're the only one who's willing to recognize all of these injustices. So because you're the only one who's willing to recognize it, you have to get voted in order for it to be stopped. Like these are
So look, the populist movement basically rose out of a movement to move from the gold standard to the silver standard, right? A lot of these farmers felt like they were being oppressed by rich bankers, okay? Doesn't it matter if they're actually being used? What if they're actually being victims? Like, doesn't that play into the equation?
It does, but you wouldn't be like, generally your entire like movement isn't going to be based off of that. So like right now, Kamala Harris is saying that the big corporations are overcharging everybody, and she's going to come in and put price capping on these corporations to make it to where Americans can pay for their stuff.
Yeah, great example. She's saying that people are being victimized by
that
greedy.
What if the populist is right? Yep.
Grocery corporations.
Yes. So she doesn't say that they're the bad guys, and she doesn't say that they're doing these horrible things and I need to come stop them. It's more so I want to benefit Americans. I want to make sure that they can buy everyday household items. And so I just want to improve this. There's a big difference between like saying, because this is also like a part of like fascistic tendencies, is saying over and over that like your country isn't where it should be. It's failing. It's not going to make it. And you have to do something drastic in order to fix these things. And so this, to say you're failing versus you would like to improve something, those are drastically different. Most politicians don't say we're failing, but Donald Trump does say we're failing and says that he needs to come and fix everything.
I mean, go ahead, Vanessa, you say something.
You don't think her rhetoric is a bit evocative of the same sentiments as Trump's? It's just Trump's is just a bit more overt with it?
Well, when you say overt, I would call it demonizing. And I think that, yes, the demonization of another group in order to get what you want done is totally different. So I think that like I can look at elites and say that we should tax them at higher rates, and that we should, maybe use that money to better homeless people or poor people, without saying the elites are these greedy pieces of shit that are taking all your money and they're being unfair and they don't, there shouldn't be billionaires and eat the rich and all of that crap. Like that, that would be very different.
Or was it Trump saying that?
No, that's not an example of Trump. That's leftists more so do that. Communists do that, but they're also going to be populists generally.
You're saying that Kamala Harris is not demonizing people?
Not that she's not demonizing people, that in order for her to say that she wants to put caps on corporations, she's not demonizing the corporations, from what I've heard at least.
Right, but like you're making the argument that Trump is saying the nation is going to fail when you have Kamala Harris saying if you elect Trump, it's the end of democracy. How is that not a nation failure? Like you're literally coming on here to tell us that Trump is a fascist. How are you not saying that the nation is going to fail if Trump is elected?
I think that he is a danger to democracy. I think obviously in his last term, he was a danger to democracy. He, attempted a coup.
I know why Adam is always constantly smiling. It's a cope smile, right? He's trying to do a poker face.
January 6th happened. There was a lot that was going on, but we ended up having enough like checks and balances in place. And that was like one of the things that I thought was great about the Trump project, is that it proved how great our checks and balances are. But
the question is really about the question is about demonization. You're saying fascists participate in demonizing people. You're literally here to say that Trump is a fascist. And Kamala Harris, a main part of her campaign is, if Trump is elected, it's an end to democracy. Like, how is that not fascistic?
Well, again, so the demonization part was part of the populist part. Populism is one aspect of all of the things that go into fascism.
So you have to have all of the things here. This is why
not all of them, but again, not one of them either. You wouldn't just take one thing and say anytime someone demonizes another person, this is populism. Like that doesn't.
Adam learning what criteria are. Adam at the age of fucking 45, having the term criteria explained to him. Thank you. Thank you for your wisdom, Adam. I'm so glad you're on a popular politics show. Thank you, Adam.
That doesn't equate, right?
Well, no, this is my problem with the 5 things is because you're first of all, there's 2 things that I don't think are bad things. Obviously,
not everything, dude.
Popular support for.
He's not saying that everything about fascism is inherently bad. Tom doesn't like fascism. Tom obviously thinks fascism is bad. But he's not saying every single thing that any fascist has ever done is inherently bad by the nature of it being fascism.
For programs, I think is good. That's democracy. That's literally how our system functions. I don't think nationalism is bad. I think imperialism is bad. But like you're using a much wider definition of nationalism. So if you're going to lump a bunch of things in that are good and all of a sudden that adds up to something bad, fascism, I think we should just separate the one thing, the indispensable element that makes it fascism. I would say that is authoritarianism.
Do you think authoritarianism is good, Adam?
No, obviously not.
Okay,
but
do you think a dictatorship is good?
No.
What about an autocracy?
No, but those are all the same thing. You just listed one thing.
No, they're not the same thing. They can be different aspects of an autocracy, but they're not all the same.
How are you defining an autocracy?
An autocracy is a centralized government that's generally going to have a dictator.
Right. Okay. So we've already covered 2 of them. You said dictatorship. Right. So dictatorship and autocracy are the same thing. What is authoritarian?
Authoritarian is going to be somebody who is a dictator, but yes, they're doing.
So look, we covered all the bases. It's one thing. It's autocracy. It's authoritarianism. It's dictatorship. It's all the one same thing, right? It's I am the state. It's the law is whatever I say.
Well, and then so yeah. So you don't think any of those things?
Wait. No, authoritarianism and dictatorship are not the same thing. A dictatorship is a form of authoritarian state where power is collected in like a single individual. Authoritarianism can take multiple forms that are not simply just dictatorships. For instance, you could have a party that is authoritarian, like the CCP, right? Like this Adam is actually so fucking retarded. It's like actually like listening to a fucking 12-year-old talk about politics.
You keep saying popular.
Well, I don't think that one
support. I'm saying populist, and so
I don't think that one thing. I don't think that one thing is good. Like we argue against authoritarianism, we argue against autocracy, we argue against that constantly. I would say the world is basically split up into liberal democracies where people gain power by popular support. You would call that populism. Suddenly it's a bad thing. Democracy is
again, you keep saying that. I do not think popular support is populism. They are totally different things. Populism is again like it's about the people versus the elites and the establishment. It's about destroying the upper echelons of people who are supposedly oppressing everybody else. Like that's not populism. Is not having popular support. Populism is.
So you're defining populism as like dragging elites out in the street and murdering them? Is that how you're defining populism?
No, again, it's generally going to be through like the demonization of the elites or the establishment, and then saying that like they're all oppressing all
the millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah, so like Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are like pretty much the 2 populists of the last like couple decades. That's it. Everybody else who had popular support, they were not all populists. And you say that like I'm using weird definitions. All of these are like Google definitions. These are the definitions that you'll get from like any dictionary.
I've read books on populism. I'm interested in populism, so I know where the populism movement began. It began as a progressive movement. So it's interesting that everyone hates populism now. But I mean, I would conceptually populism and democracy, I just see as the same. The conceptually I see dictatorship, autocracy, and authoritarianism.
Adam is the worst case of Dunning-Kruger with any kind of traction in this space. He's like an arrogant stoner getting dog walked by a high school debate captain. That's real. Thank you for the $5.
It's the same. So I think those are.
I don't think
basically
populism is always bad either, though. Like even like the American Revolution could be considered like a populist type of movement because they were going against the king, right? But like I would look at that as justified. I don't look at it as like demonizing billionaires as justified. I don't look at like saying the establishment within government is all like dirty and corrupt and that they're all trying to take your money and that they don't actually vote on your behalf, but they're just actually there just to make billions of dollars. Like I don't think that's good. And so again, like what I was saying, populism is bad. Not really. It's just how it's being used and whether or not the way you're using it is justified. And currently, I don't think that it would be a justified movement.
Right. Is Trump demonizing billionaires? I mean, I see more demonization of billionaires on the
you demonize the
on the left, obviously. So, but yeah, okay. So, I guess let's move on to how you think Donald Trump is an authoritarian.
I mean, dang, the way that he talks about doing different things. So he's obviously, I would say that like attempting a coup is authoritarianistic. Now, I want to be clear. Obviously, again, within our government, within our checks and balances, you can't actually rule as an authoritarian, but you can make attempts after attempts over and over. And I think that, yes, just somebody having authoritarian tendencies is going to be a negative for me as somebody who, yes, is very, very much believes in liberal principles. But yeah, I think like the trying to use the DOJ to go after his enemies and like go after like political enemies, go after personal enemies and try to get them in trouble. I would say like his praise of other like dictators like Putin, Hitler, Viktor Orban, Kim Jong-un shows that like he probably has an affinity for dictatorships. Let's see.
Well, I mean, what is? Can you? I'm very much in favor of like something that I can, like it's unquestionable, some sort of tangible evidence that I can point to that is like some sort of authoritarian move. Like if Donald Trump started jailing people without even there being any pretense of law, I think obviously we're like way into the authoritarian camp. So
well, I mean, also like in the United States, we would generally consider like, yeah, like because when I'm using like him trying to use the DOJ to go after like personal enemies and things like that, this is something that we would consider against our like personal liberties, our freedoms, freedom of speech, like him saying that like we should expand libel laws to sue journalists for saying things like he is trying to use the government to enforce his will and just go after people for personal reasons. All of a sudden, the government is now his personal shield and personal sword that he can use against anybody at will. And so,
well,
like,
the question though is if he's operating within the law, then he's not an authoritarian. Obviously, authoritarian is I am above the law. I make the law.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is that when he's trying to do these things over and over, he is operating outside of the law. He's attempting to operate outside of the law. Obviously, January 6th would be another one where he is trying to use his people and use his power, use all of the loyalists that he's brought in to try to overthrow the government and overthrow the election. Like there's a bunch of yes, there's tons and tons of examples of him just seeming to have like a lack of care for the Constitution, for people's personal freedoms, and then yes, trying over and over to just swing around his weight and his power to get things done, even if it's outside of our
examples. Tons and tons of examples. Can you like give us a couple
of which one? I mean, I said I have tons of examples of him being like a fascist. I just gave a bunch of examples of him being authoritarian. Is there something else that?
No,
what were the examples?
Yeah, the examples of the authoritarianism. So obviously, again, using the DOJ over and over.
Maybe attempting to use the DOJ, but he kept getting stopped. Like obviously, the law is standing in the way. I would say, like an authoritarian is someone who is above the law. So if he keeps making attempts and the law keeps stopping him, I don't know how you can make the argument that he's an authoritarian.
Yeah. So we can have a liberal government, or we can have a liberal philosophy. Two different things, right? You can have a fascistic government, or you can have a fascistic
okay, guys,
philosophy.
one second. I just went to grab a snack and I fucking broke something. I thought I'd be 2 seconds. So I'm literally, I don't want to fucking miss too much of this because I've been watching it, listening to it, and it sounds fucking retarded. So literally, I'm going to throw up a waiting screen for 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. Okay, let's go wind it back as well.
Of which one? I mean, I said I have tons of examples of him being like a fascist. I just gave a bunch of examples of him being authoritarian. Is there something else that?
No,
what were the examples?
Yeah, the examples of the authoritarianism. So obviously, again, using the DOJ over and over.
Maybe attempting to use the DOJ, but he kept getting stopped. Like obviously, the law is standing in the way. I would say, like an authoritarian is someone who is above the law. So if he keeps making attempts and the law,
okay, this is retarded. I think authoritarianism is about being above the law. It's about how power is collected, right? Like you could say like a dictator might be above the law. I don't think authoritarianism necessarily means above the law.
Keep stopping him. I don't know how you can make the argument that he's an authoritarian.
Yeah, so we can have a liberal government or we can have a liberal philosophy, two different things, right? You can have a fascistic government or you can have a fascistic philosophy. I would say Trump has a fascist philosophy. He is a fascist. We cannot have a fascist government unless he gets enough loyalists in to do something, to do a bunch of things that are drastic. But yes, like we're talking about the philosophy, we're talking about his tendencies, we're talking about the characteristics of Donald Trump and the fact that these all align with what it is that we would call fascist.
And what is the look? Obviously, I'm completely guilty of speeding. Like speed laws.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I want to be dictator would be considered an authoritarian, even though he hasn't taken power yet. He wouldn't be above the law, but he would still be an authoritarian. Yeah.
Line for me, right? You wouldn't call me a fascist because I am against the law. Because I'm constantly breaking the law, right? Correct. It would have to be some sort of characteristic.
Overriding someone's like personal freedoms, their rights, their things like that.
Right. Okay. So he would have to break the law in a way that actually harmed other people. That's where you're drawing. That's where you're drawing the distinction.
I mean, even if it doesn't have some sort of direct harm on somebody, I don't know that I would actually like say that it doesn't. Like, I guess.
So
general, yes,
so
like,
he could be. So he could. So I could be a fascist just because I speed, right?
No, again, you're not like really like challenging other people's freedoms, and you're not like doing that in authoritative position. You're not in a like a role as a leader.
So then you do agree with
forcing this upon others.
Look, so you do agree with the line. As long as he's not harming other people, then that's where the line is. As soon as he circumvents a law to harm other people, or just wants to circumvent the law.
All I said is that I don't know that it would have
people.
to have some sort. Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's what I was saying. Is that I don't think that you would have to have.
Wait. It's not about whether you're harming other people, is it? Where is this harming other people thing coming in from? It's about whether you conform to like the democratic institutions that are already set up in like the country, right? Or like about how decisions are made. Yeah.
Have some sort of direct harm on somebody else.
It's not about whether it harms people. That's not like a criteria for it.
Okay. Sitch, you have any questions or anything? Sitch is taking.
I'm taking that. No. I mean, I think you have to separate. Like, obviously, a person could be trying to enact authoritarian or fascistic policies, and whether or not they are able to manifest them or not has no bearing on defining them as an authoritarian or a fascist. Right? That's the definition of the government structure, not the individual. So, if Trump is attempting to do something that you would classify as authoritarian, if he fails to do it, that doesn't mean that he's not authoritarian. Would you agree with that, Adam?
Yeah, he's defining him as an authoritarian.
Well,
look, there are a lot of people who are authoritarians that are obviously being constrained by the political and economic system around them. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I would, you can look at various works. One that we talk about all the time is the book, The Authoritarian Dynamic, where she postulates that a third of people are actually authoritarians, right? And usually they're pretty mellow until things start going off the wheel, the wheels start coming off of society, and then all of a sudden they become very authoritarian. So,
So is the only contention now, like, or is the main contention now, if Donald Trump is authoritarian? Is that the main contention that is taking place in this section of the conversation?
Adam,
well, is that the main contention? Is Trump authoritarian?
If you want to, I don't know that I have enough information to really be confident that Donald Trump is an authoritarian.
Well, I mean, that's, so when I'm giving these examples, right? You guys asked for examples a couple of times, and I gave a couple. So like a dictatorialism would be like an authoritarian thing. When I say that we have dozens of examples of him trying to use the DOJ and use the government to go after people for personal reasons and for political reasons. Like, that is just authoritarian. Yes, we can all agree on that. That is just an authoritarian thing to do, regardless of whether or not you get away with it. We would still say that that is an authoritarian action. Yes.
Obviously, it depends upon what action he's pursuing. Like, if he is pursuing legitimate corruption, then like that's
so when Omarosa makes fun of him for, I think it was like, I forget, having little fingers or something, and he wanted to use the DOJ to go after her to shut her up.
I'm not familiar with this example, so but obviously that would be
common situation whenever someone brings up a bad point about Trump, I fear, with Adam. Yeah, I'm not aware of that one. Okay, Adam.
Or we get into example is, so if Donald Trump is just trying to like hone in on definition here. If Donald Trump or anyone, any president is using the DOJ to go after people wrongly, is that meet the criteria of being authoritarian? Or is that just a check mark that puts them in that direction? Adam?
I mean, it would obviously the person could be incorrect, and if they're pursuing the person for legitimate reasons, but they're wrong, a lot of people are going to say, well, they're
Right, well, let's say-
they're just doing it for their own
let's say
selfish
just-
reasons.
Right.
But yeah,
Or-
like I would put it as a check, obviously.
Okay, so yeah.
Really, I'm defining it as someone who sees himself above the law. And when I look
Right.
at Donald Trump, I see someone who comes from a business type environment where he's used to wheeling and dealing to get things out of people. He's not, he doesn't, it's not like a gun to the head situation. When you're thinking of authoritarian dictators, you think of like Saddam Hussein, who is like marches 30 people out of a room and murders them all to kind of whip people into shape. Right.
Yes, but what, like, it's the same again when we're talking about like overthrowing people's personal freedoms, like Donald Trump talking about the enemy within, talking about using the military against them, saying that he was going to use the military against BLM. Like, these are all things that we would consider to be him like trying to push back on people's like personal liberties or even states' rights as well. And then like I went to
so you're comparing those actions to Saddam Hussein, like literally murdering people in front of his political rivals.
No, it doesn't have to be the worst type of like injustice in order for it to be an injustice to people's rights. Like it doesn't have to be the worst possible thing in the world just because they're both authoritarians. Doesn't...
so you, dude, it's like the most retarded thing ever. I'm incredulous. Oh, so you think it's like he killed people? You think it's like he killed people? You think he's like literally killing people? No. No one said that, you fucking retard. That's not the point that's being made.
I mean that they're both just as bad as one another, right?
Well, obviously, there's a distinction to be made here that you pointed out. We're talking about people who have like an authoritarian personality. They would like to do the nastiest possible things to people. And then there are people who are actually authoritarians who have the power to do these things and act on them and use that power to do those kinds of things. Like you're talking about Donald Trump just being an authoritarian personality where he would like to do these things, but the state keeps standing in the way. The law keeps preventing him from doing the things that he wants to do.
Yeah, the Constitution. Yeah.
Right. Well, look, I think 30% of the population are authoritarians that would like to do things that the law keeps standing in the way of them doing. So,
well, I mean, yeah, like Biden has twice written executive orders that stop anybody who crosses the border illegally from claiming asylum, right? This is likely going to get overturned by the Supreme Court as it did the first time. It'll get overturned again this time.
So Biden is an authoritarian too.
Right, but I wouldn't call that authoritarian because this is
because it's Biden, it's not Trump.
Well, I'm saying that because it's like it's something that we would consider against federal law or against the Constitution, that we wouldn't say that this is like a authoritarian just because of that in and of itself, because we wouldn't call those like their rights to have that. Though
okay, now Tom's doing some retarded cope. Surely you would have to concede that that action is somewhat authoritarian. But that doesn't mean that Biden is an authoritarian. Obviously, many actions can be characterized in many different ways. Authoritarian is a fine way to characterize someone attempting to push through laws that they don't have, the mandate for. I feel like you have to concede that and then say, but Biden is not, as a whole, an authoritarian. I don't know, man.
I think that it would be something that we would consider nationalistic. It is a type of nationalistic tendency for sure.
If Trump did that exact same thing, would you call that fascistic?
No. Again, it's not. It's never going to be just one thing. Like Trump has been around for 8 years now. I told you in DMs, like I just started believing that he was fascist. I've never called anybody fascist. I'm not a fucking leftist. Like I hate the way that they use words like racist and Nazi and fascist and all this shit. So I've never called anybody a fascist before. But he is just like he's gotten to the point where I feel like he's overboard. And then not only that, but you guys, when I was listening to you, were going over the fact that like even 13 White House staffers had come out at this point saying that they felt like he was fascist, and they're among a large group already that's already said these sorts of things that worked with him beforehand. So there's a lot of them.
I would bet at least 50% of those people are as well fascists by your definition, or authoritarians by your definition. So
well, let me ask you something, Adam. Do you think, because you're kind of making this distinction between like the fascist personality type versus whatever is specifically a fascist, do you think that Donald Trump has the authoritarian?
The chat said, ask Tom if mobile detailing is fascist. What?
Think that Donald Trump has an authoritarian personality type?
I don't know. I don't have enough information to know that. I mean, I've read a bunch of these insider books, and it's unclear.
Well, I mean,
would you consider the act of, would you consider the act of, the elector scheme, like that's a check mark in the authoritarian box, right?
I mean, he's going to conceptualize it as feeling out the law. Like he even now believes that it was a legal loophole that he was exploiting. Is that authoritarianism? I think of authoritarianism as me saying, like, I don't care what the law is. I'm going to do whatever I want. Like, he's conceptualizing it as there's this legal loophole. I'm going to exploit it. If that legal loophole wasn't there, would January of 6 had happened? I'm not sure that it would. Like, if he didn't have an attorney that came to him and provided him with this legal loophole, what would he have done?
Yeah, but the question
even
is,
without that, is that just trying to get the electors to take away people's votes from all 7 of those states in the first place is already something that is like definitely authoritarian, right? Just trying.
No, it's delusional.
How? But he's actually like getting people to pretend that he won in 7 different states. Like this.
He believes he won. He believes he won. That's delusional. That's not authoritarian.
Okay. I think that all authoritarians think they're doing something right for some sort of reason.
Delusion is rampant.
Even Hitler thought he was genociding Jews for a good reason. Like I don't think it made any difference as to whether or not it was authoritarian when he did it.
Right. Do you think that like
it does? Look, it literally does make a difference if he actually won the election, right? You're only saying like
yes, but he didn't. Do you believe he won the election?
No, I don't. I literally look. I literally said he's delusional.
Yes,
I don't know how you can't understand the distinction between the two.
No, there's not a distinction. You can be delusional and an authoritarian. There's not a distinction. You can be both. Most authoritarians are delusional. Mao, Hitler, all of these people, they are delusional to some extent, or they're just purposely lying. But
I don't. Jesus Christ, my throat. I don't know if you guys have heard this already, but Adam accepts that either Trump is like full blown wanting to take over the government or not living in reality. And he's willing to take not living in reality over Kamala because he doesn't like having gay people in his games. That's basically his entire political thought.
Delusional.
Yes,
I don't know how you can't understand the distinction between the two.
No, there's not a distinction. You can be delusional and an authoritarian. There's not a distinction. You can be both. Most authoritarians are delusional. Mao, Hitler, all of these people, they are delusional to some extent, or they're just purposely lying. But
if the 2020 election was legitimately stolen, the Democrats were stuffing ballot boxes all over the place. Okay, they took 2 million votes from Donald Trump and they burned them in a fucking tire fire. Okay, and Donald Trump has undeniable evidence of this, and he goes and then he goes after them. Okay, so look, you agree with me then? If that's
because he didn't have that undeniable evidence, Adam. He didn't have that.
Listen to me for a second, okay? Listen. Okay. Open your ears up. Listen. Okay. You say if that scenario existed, what Donald Trump was doing would be the correct thing to do. It would not be an authoritarian thing to do. It would be justified. It would be prudent for him to do that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So if Donald Trump believes that is the situation and he is doing the prudent thing, he's not an authoritarian. He's delusional.
Okay. So
there's a difference.
An authoritarian because he actually thought the Jews were coming after them, right? Yes.
I'm not going to litigate World War II or whether or not Hitler was delusional to make your point. That's like bad faith. That's bad faith.
It's not because it's not bad faith at all. You're saying that just because they believe it's happening, that it's no longer authority.
I'm sorry, Sitch.
What happened?
He's making a bad faith argument. I'm not going to.
No. Wait. This is not a bad faith argument.
He muted him. No. Dude, Adam muted him.
And he is doing the prudent thing. He's not an authoritarian. He's delusional.
Okay, so
there's a difference.
An authoritarian because he actually thought the Jews were coming after them, right? Yes.
I'm not going to litigate World War II or whether or not Hitler was delusional to make your point. That's like bad faith. That's bad faith.
It's not because it's not bad faith at all. You're saying that just because they believe it's happening, that it's no longer authority.
You can't be authoritarian if you're right, is Adam's argument right now. Again, authoritarian is about the way the government functions. It's about having like pure like state control, like a limited scope of power, limited distribution of power, lack of individual liberties or democracy. It's like about these sorts of things. It's not about whether you're right when you claim something or not. Yeah, concentration power, not scope of power, concentration of power. That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. It's not about whether you're right about a claim you make.
I'm sorry, Sitch.
What happened?
He's making a bad faith argument. I'm not going
to. No. Wait. This is not a bad faith argument.
It is a total bad faith argument.
Hold on.
I'm not here to litigate.
No. Wait. Okay. This is what you do have to litigate, right? You're basically making the argument that delusion is a defense.
Okay. So this is the meltdown. All right.
Against everything in terms of negative intention or being labeled as an authoritarian. That is the argument that you're making.
It's not.
Well, okay, so you agree that someone
you agree that there's a difference between someone who's delusional and someone who's authoritarian, right? This person could be the nicest person in the world. If they're delusional and acting on a delusion, they're not an authoritarian. They're doing the right thing.
No, it's not about, because it's not about whether you're right. It's not about whether you have an accurate assessment of reality. It's about the concentration of power.
You literally agree with what he said.
No, hold on. Are you saying that someone who suffers from a delusion cannot be authoritarian? Because that's what you're saying.
No, I am not.
So give me an example of someone who is delusional and authoritarian by your definitions of these words.
That's not my argument.
That is your, that's the question, is that you're saying Donald Trump is not authoritarian because he's delusional.
Someone who is an authoritarian is acting imprudently. They know that they're acting imprudently. They know that they lost the election and they don't give a fuck. They're like, fuck the system, fuck the rules. It doesn't matter. I'm an authoritarian.
Yeah, literally, dude, Adam is totally cooked here, because usually it's Sitch, I need help. Sitch, I need help. Sitch, please fight this for me. Sitch, I can't explain myself here. But now he's muted Tom. So Sitch is having to step up. He's taking off the belt right now, okay? So Adam is like despite being 45 years old, Adam is like a small child watching his father take off the belt. And just like getting ready, just backing him into a corner.
Acting imprudently. They know that they're acting imprudently. They know that they lost the election and they don't give a fuck. They're like, fuck the system, fuck the rules. It doesn't matter. I'm an authoritarian. I am the law. I am the state. That's an authoritarian. Do you agree?
So I don't agree. No. Authoritarian is just someone who doesn't have respect for the laws, the Constitution, and was willing to sacrifice all those things in favor of what they want or believe.
Okay, that's not even really true, because you could have an authoritarian state, right? I feel like where the laws, the Constitution are authoritarian. It's not just about the individual, and this would be very specifically an authoritarian in the democratic context. I guess maybe it applies. You can kind of spin it as applying, as it can be a workable definition, but only like it's not a very good one.
Okay, then we're using completely different definitions of authoritarian.
Yeah, but so again, as I asked you, under your definition, you are saying that someone cannot be delusional and authoritarian.
Someone can be delusional and authoritarian, obviously.
Okay,
obviously.
So give me an example. So what does that look like?
Saddam Hussein mistakenly executes 50 of the wrong people because he thinks they're conspiring against him because he's delusional.
Why is
so? Does that not apply to Trump? Wait, how does that not just apply to Trump? That's why he's just describing Jan 6 from his perspective. Like, what a fucking idiot, dude.
Okay,
obviously.
So give me an example. So what does that look like?
Saddam Hussein mistakenly executes 50 of the wrong people because he thinks they're conspiring against him because he's delusional.
Why is that authoritarian?
Because he is the law. He can do whatever he wants.
No, but so like what part of that? So the authoritarian part is the executing the people without trial? Is that the authoritarian part? I'm trying to ask you.
Dude, no way he can't answer. No way he can't answer. Yes, that is the authoritarian part, Adam. Yes.
So the authoritarian part is the executing the people without trial? Is that the authoritarian part?
Just say yes.
I'm trying to ask you. I'm trying to figure out this distinction here.
Dude, look, Cope laughs, and look, dude, how upset is this guy?
Look, I'm done with this, okay?
Okay.
I'm literally done with you.
Okay.
Quits his own show. Quits his own show. He's done with Sitch and he quits his own show because he got asked to point out which part of his example was the authoritarian part, and he was stumped and he couldn't answer it because he realized that he was backed into a complete corner and had to accept that Gen 6 was authoritarian. Does he come back? No. Does he actually not speak for the whole rest of the show?
So now what?
Yeah, I mean, from what I understood, I thought you were saying that, yeah, if it was a delusion, that was the argument against whether or not it was authoritarian. So, yeah, I mean, I was gonna say I have like,
Sitch is so based. What were they saying? Adam is deaf right. No one is using the wrong definitions except you, Adam. Adam's become an authoritarian because he's kicking anyone who disagrees with him. Adam, that doesn't make any sense. Sitch is a traitor. There's beef for Brian. He's in this chat. I've seen that guy in this chat. Adam regarded. Natural gas leak in the house. Oh no. The breakup. Whiny baby.
Like the examples that I have generally are that like Trump always has a need for a bunch of enemies, whether it's like the rhinos, the swamp, immigrants, the establishment, the deep state, the media, that he like kind of takes all of the checks and balances that would be on him for society. So like things like media, that he like demonizes the media so that they're always wrong and they're always lying before they ever say that he's lying, that he'll say, Democrats.
Yeah, I don't know how you watch someone, like how you keep supporting someone after you see them like totally bitch out like that. It's fucking crazy.
Are all liars so that he can discredit them before they ever come against him. That same thing with the science.
When it comes to reporting on Trump, though?
Say that again?
I think the media takes a lot of liberty when it comes to honestly reporting on Trump.
I don't see much of what.
So like I would assume that you've listed it as an example. I would assume you would believe that everything that the media is reporting on Trump is that they're factual and that he's just using that as a way to martyr himself or to victimize himself in his quest to fascistic pursuit.
It generally, I think that like there's a mix up when it comes to media where like if there's somebody doing journalism, yes, they have like journalistic ethics and standards that they have to abide by and that they have to have like all these accuracies, right? But when we turn to like opinion pieces with somebody like Tucker Carlson, Rachel Maddow, like these are people who are just giving their opinions on things and they're taking what journalists get, they're taking that information and then they're giving you their thoughts on it, right? That's obviously much more like editorialized than a journalist is. When it comes to journalism and those people, I would say that those people are fairly accurate.
No, I'm aware of the difference between journalism and punditry. I'm talking about specific journalism because I work in media sometimes, so I'm aware. So I'm asking specifically. You don't think that there are times where media is like?
Yeah, I don't think journalists are maliciously like saying things incorrectly. I think that generally if they get things wrong and they're able to be shown that it's wrong, that they'll retract.
I guess Adam Litch is just gone. Tom does deserve the co-host spot. He killed the last co-host. He should take it. Exactly. What's this? Sitch finally loses it on Adam from a month ago. Let's see this.
They're not going to say J.D. Vance was lying. They're going to say, look, he's telling the truth here. That shouldn't be the law. I mean, technically they are. It is technically they are of legal status, but they shouldn't be. That's the calculation that they're going to make.
Okay, then Vance should be smart, which he's been in other parts in this debate, but this is fucking stupid. Instead of saying they're illegal, which is factually untrue, and it gets you down this stupid Sitch's law fucking conversation about the definition of illegal, he should just say like the Biden or the Kamala Harris, immigrants. Right?
Why?
Just
hold on.
Like
why
the way,
must he bend to your sensibilities? Why can't he just?
It's not fucking bending to my sensibilities. It's telling the fucking truth. What the fuck are you talking about? This is like insane. Wait, this would be like saying, wait, no. This would be like saying, oh, I'm pro-life. Okay, so I'm gonna look at a state that is pro-choice and they allow abortions and say the illegal abortion laws that are taking place under Tim Walz. And you're like, what do you mean illegal? It's legal in that state. No, but I think it should be illegal. Well, just because you think.
Make Aiden your new co-host. I do not need a co-host. There was no second chair required here, Aiden. Go find someone like Larix who needs a co-pilot. All right, maybe he'll take you in.
I think it should be illegal. Doesn't mean fucking is illegal.
Look, we got to dial it down a bit. You understand the argument that I'm making.
It's like the argument you're making is fucking retarded. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Wow. Well, yeah, I'm sure it's fucking retarded. I can understand why Sitch is spazzing out him. Yeah, I'm sure Hempleton's hiring. I mean, yeah, I would have lost my mind with fucking Adam a long time ago.